What is up, guys? Teddy Cornwell here. Welcome to the Underdog Talk podcast, the world's most underrated podcast. There's something about the underdog, but screw the underdog. Today's guest has spent 30 years in law enforcement and 25 years. You heard that right. 25 years in the Secret Service. And I just got to throw in an Appalachian State football standout. Yes, that is right. A standout at Appalachian State. The one and only Mr. Scott Bryson. How you doing today, sir, on this Labor Day?
Well, thank you for the hype. I think that's the first part of your intro was pretty good. The standout part, I'm not sure.
What position did you play, if you mind me
I
asking?
played outside linebacker.
Okay. Okay. And was Appalachian State D1 when you went there?
No, we were back in the day. It was one double A.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys
FCS?
remember one double A, but yeah, it was in the Southern Conference back then.
Okay. And did you grow up playing football or was that?
I grew up playing baseball and football. I tried to play basketball, wasn't my thing. I wrestled 1 year in high school and got destroyed pretty much every match. I'm like, you know what? I need to stick to the gridiron.
Yes, 100%. And, gridiron football is truly the best. College football is the best. And what I was trying to look up the Appalachian State mascot. How do you pronounce that?
Well, it's the Mountaineers. So
Okay,
the fact
it
that
is.
you're saying Appalachian is actually good because most people say Appalachian, which is hilarious. But yeah, Appalachian State University. We're the Mountaineers. Yeah.
But there was
The mascot's name
yeah,
Yosef. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
okay.
they
That's where
call him Yosef. Yeah.
that's where I was getting me. I was trying to pronounce it.
Mhm.
I couldn't get that.
Yeah, Yosef.
Couldn't get that going. But I've been looking forward to this podcast, Scott. You're true inspiration and hero to many. I appreciate you taking the time to come on the podcast. And
Yeah, thanks for
I
having
kind
me.
of want to take it back. Obviously, we talked about kind of the college life, but what was early life like for you? You obviously went to play football, but how did it kind of go from football to law enforcement to Secret Service? What was the steps you took to kind of make that journey complete, if you mind me asking?
Yeah, of course. So I grew up in a really small town. It kind of looks the same today as it did in the 70s. I grew up in North Carolina, which is where I live now. I'm in the same county I grew up in, different town. Just east of Charlotte, just a little bit, 30 or 40 minutes east of Charlotte in a really small town. I had a great childhood. I don't know what normal is, but I think I lived it. I'm the older sibling. I have a sister 2.5 years younger than me. And we grew up out in the country. We always had some type of dog running around and playing in the woods and playing sports and different things like that. As I got older, I got into cars and uh, girls a little bit. I guess I dated some, but not a whole lot. I was just I was athletic, but I was sort of a nerd. I don't know, in a weird way. So very, very square young man, didn't drink alcohol, didn't do all the party and stuff, which of course I made up for later in life. I'm not trying to act like I'm holier than that because when I got to college, I made up for made up for lost time, which I am not proud of, by the way. But anyway, I'm just a regular guy who did regular things. I went to college to play football. I was a walk-on, which is a hard life. I played for 2 years and I realized, well, I'm not going pro. What's the point? So I kind of decided to just focus on academics. And I wanted to be a high school football coach. And I have coached a lot of high school football over the years as a volunteer. So I wanted to be I have a PE degree. Actually, I'm certified K through 12 in North Carolina, and I taught school right after college for a short time. So my goal was to be a high school football coach. But then my sophomore year in college, I met a guy who was a Secret Service agent, believe it or not, of all things, at a Christmas Eve service. And the guy couldn't have been nicer. He was just really humble and talked to me. And I don't know, it's just like protecting the leader of the free world was just very interesting to a 19-year-old, 20-year-old. And so he talked to me about what that looked like. And I think I was sold from there. So I stayed the course and finished my degree. And because he gave me some really good advice. He was like, the Secret Service is very small and very diverse, whereas the Bureau is very big and they like CPAs and lawyers and things like that. But it doesn't matter. You don't have to have a criminal justice degree necessarily. So just stay the course, so you didn't lose credits and whatever. So I did that, and I got out of college, taught school for a short time. And then but I knew I wanted to be in law enforcement. So then I became a police officer because you needed some experience. And then I became an agent 2.5 years later.
It's almost like everything happens for a reason to
It
meet him
does.
at the Christmas service. And if I'm right, and I hope I am, you retired in October 2022, correct, sir?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Thank you for your service on that. And so we're coming up on almost 3 years. Is that kind of weird? Has it kind of flown by? Do
Mm.
you miss it at all?
Yeah, it's a great question. I just like the military folks, I think. Now, I wasn't in the military, so I can't speak for them. Uh, but you do something for a long time, and then you're like, I can't wait to retire. And then when it comes, you're like, man, it's almost like you wished your life away, sort of. So there was that separation anxiety, perhaps. I'm not sure what you call it, but just trying to find your place in the world. Of course, I've moved on. I'm still in law enforcement. I'm not allowed to say where I work because the place I work asked me not to, which is fine. It's not like I'm doing some CIA secret stuff, but I do work at local law enforcement. Um, so I try to find my way there. But yeah, it's hard, when you do something for a long time and you feel like you're pretty good at it. Uh, yeah, it kind of leaves a little bit of a hole there. I think the mission set was very important to me because it's a zero fail mission, as you know. Um, but yeah, I think I miss the people more than anything. I worked with some really, really good people, and I think just missing that camaraderie and that group effort of working hard toward a common goal is what I think I miss the most.
And it's kind of like for professional athletes, what's next after retirement, kind of finding something to do. Obviously, I think Brian Urlacher was on the podcast, Hall of Famer, and he talked about,
Mhm.
what's next after doing something that you've almost done your whole life. It's a different switch, and obviously, you found something. You have a social media, you have a podcast, which we'll talk about later. And I totally agree on that. And one thing, I was watching a podcast you did, and I actually found it really interesting. Kind of how you said you were talking about how a good day is a boring one on the Secret Service, but you also talked about how you guys are trained for something to come up. That was an interesting take. And one thing that a few years ago, what was it, 2 years ago, July 14th, obviously Donald Trump was shot and wounded. As a former Secret Service agent, what were your thoughts about what transpired? And do you think the Secret Service was at the best that day?
Yeah, that day hit really hard.
Yeah.
So I can remember, um, I remember right where I
Yeah.
was when I found out. I mean, like pretty much everybody. Yeah, that day hit really hard,
Yeah.
and uh, getting a little emotional thinking about it. I don't know why it's early, but I'm still getting a little juiced up thinking about it. I think the reason I get emotional or got emotional about it is because wow, I didn't expect this to happen. The the men and women that sprang into action. Now, did the Secret Service do some things wrong? Absolutely. Which I'll be happy to give them a grade on. But I think for me, the selfless nature of that human thing that some people have and some people don't have, it's an intangible thing you can't see until you see it, right? So the fact that men and women were willing to rush that stage and protect him, uh, to give up their life if need be to protect him. And I'm not trying to sound like I'm something special or some pious dude, but like those are the people that I gravitate toward. That's why, I think there are people in life that are civil servants, and there's others that aren't, and that's okay. That doesn't make us better than anybody, but that's an intangible thing that I think you're born with or you're not, and that's what I miss about that. And that's what, while I was so sick on my stomach to watch that unfold, um, it gave me like this overwhelming sense of pride that, like, yeah, that's what it's all about, on our worst day. And of course, the Secret Service has to get it right every day. Bad guys only got to get it right once, which we can talk about here in a second. I'll let you lead the questioning, obviously, but yeah, I think they really got it wrong bad that day. They got a lot wrong, and then they got a couple things right, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I remember where I exactly was too. I was on a date with a girl, and the date didn't go well after. But I do remember where I was, and obviously, yeah, I was emotional too. That's the president, like you mentioned, of the free world, the greatest country on earth. And obviously, I want to hear your take on what the Secret Service did right versus wrong, but them springing into action and putting their life on the line is truly one of the most heroic things I think can be done. You mentioned earlier about a grade, Scott. What would you give a grade? Because I know there was, obviously they protected the president. There was some criticism on them. What would you give the grade on the Secret Service that day, sir?
Well, again, it's easy to say from the cheap seats, but I feel like I've got the right to say this because I did it. Maybe if I hadn't done it, I should keep my thoughts to myself. But the bottom line is this, and I will give you an answer. I'm not a politician. I will give you an answer, but I want to qualify it with this. So, like, I coach football, right? And I do a lot of sports analogies. If you get the win, you might have had 2 or 3 fumbles and a throw intercept. It doesn't matter how ugly the game was. Did we win? What's the scoreboard say? And the scoreboard says we won. So at the end of the day, the coach can be upset with the performance, but he's happy with the outcome, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So I think the performance that happened as it was going down in real time was pretty good. But the Secret Service is very thorough, generally speaking, very thorough. So stuff like that doesn't happen. So I would overall grade, and I've said this a couple of times on different platforms, sort of joking around because a guy that I used to work for is a very funny guy. And when things don't go well, he doesn't just give you an F, he gives you an F minus. So we jokingly say F minus a lot. So it was a failure. I feel like it was a failure on one part, but then the other part was, okay, well, he lived. So does it really matter how ugly it was? I don't know. I don't know if that's a good answer, but that's how I feel.
I think that was a great answer. I think, yes, obviously you have been there, so you can you're more knowledgeable than most people. But yeah, I mean, I think he was safe at the end of the day, and minor injuries. I think we can all take a sigh of relief and thank the Secret Service for being there. What is the protocol? Obviously, that is kind of one of the main things you guys train for. What is the protocol for something like that? And more importantly, how do you guys stay calm in a situation when everyone else is panicking, Scott?
Yeah, obviously, not going to get in the weeds on like SOPs or whatever. So, the bad guys don't know what we're doing, but I always say we. Sorry, they. And it's no longer we what they're doing. But yeah, I think you're gonna when your training is highly important, right? So the more you train, the better you're going to be, and you're going to fall to your lowest level of training. So it needs to be muscle memory, right? So you don't have time to think and stuff like that. And I think those guys and girls did a good job initially. Now, could I nitpick it a little bit? Yeah. Again, I wasn't there, so who's to say what I would have done? But that's why you need a strong personality as the detail leader. And I'm not crapping on Sean Kern, because Sean Kern was the detail leader that day. And he's the new director, and I know Sean, and he's a good man, and he's a good agent. But Donald Trump's got a strong personality, and in my opinion, they should have kept him down, because let's just say, for example, there could or could not possibly be assets on the stage that would help, if you get what I'm saying. So it's like, stay down, hunker down. I would have moved the car back. Again, this is so easy to say in retrospect, right? Hindsight's 2020. But I would have moved the Suburban back, and we would have gotten up. In a perfect world, you would get him up and get him to the car right now, instead of letting him do this stuff, right? Which I understand, it was adrenaline and a protect he hadn't been shot at in years. So it's easy for me to say that now, and I'm not trying to poo-poo on
Yeah.
Sean, because Sean is a great dude. Okay, and again, we're talking. That's the difference between having a textbook uh, protocol versus real life. You can talk about it. Like, I mean, I wasn't in the military, but these guys have battle plans, and then it goes to crap very quick. Mike Tyson said it best. Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
Yeah, and I think we can all just take a sigh of relief that Donald Trump was okay and the Secret Service did act and they did ultimately save the day. Now, you talked about how kind of you have that adrenaline and you're just training. How do you handle fear? Do you ever feel it on duty when you were on duty? And what kind of mental tools helped you push through that fear that humans have in situations like that?
Well, I think fear. Fear is a real thing. And if people in law enforcement or military folks say that they've never been afraid, either they're a liar or they're a psychopath. But either one, it's not good, because fear will keep you alive. I was a police officer in the streets, as a patrolman for 2 years before I went to the service. And I was afraid. There was a couple of times when I got really scared. There were a couple of times with the Secret Service that I got scared. And what that does is I think it does is it heightens your alertness, right? Your radar kind of goes up, and the horse blinders sort of come off. And some people call it the flow state or whatever. And you just kind of things sort of slow down, but it gets back to your level of training and your confidence in your abilities, your confidence in your teammates, your confidence in your training, your confidence in the equipment that you have. There's a whole lot of things that go together, right? And so being thorough in advance makes game. It's like practicing really hard through the week. That the games are easy, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And you've spent years doing this. You've protected 5 presidents. Is that accurate?
Yeah, throughout my lifetime, yeah, but
Yep.
three permanently.
Very permanently. And obviously, what's one lesson from kind of that experience of protecting the most powerful person on earth that kind of shapes you on how you live your life today, Scott?
Well, I think one of the things that the Secret Service in particular does really well is it hires high quality people. It did, at least, which we can talk about in a minute about DEI if you want to go down that rabbit hole. Well, we don't have to
We
belabor the
can.
point. But the point I want to talk about, that I think that probably bled into July 13th a little bit. Uh, Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. I think it did, but I think um, you know. Sorry, I got myself off track. What'd you say?
So, just talking about how kind of one, lesson from the
Oh yeah,
experience that kind of shapes how you live your life today. And obviously, I know I watch your
yeah,
videos and I know it still is with you. So, just what's one kind of
yeah.
lesson?
I think um, what separates Secret Service agents from, like, maybe the FBI or different places, um, is the ability to compartmentalize. So I am a conservative.
Yep.
Most people in law enforcement are conservatives, but not 100%, right? So I have friends. I have a couple of really, really good friends that we vote very differently. But when we go to work, we compartmentalize and we protect the office of the president, whether it's black, white, green, or purple, man or woman, whatever the case may be. We're there to do a job, and we compartmentalize, and we push our personal feelings to the side for that 8-hour shift or that 12-hour shift, and we do a job. And I saw that across the board with both parties. When I started, it was Bill Clinton and Al Gore. Well, I didn't vote for them, but that didn't keep me from doing my job. And then Bush was in. My buddy didn't vote for Bush. It didn't keep him from doing his job, and so on and so forth, if that makes any sense. So I just think that the the ability to be a grown up and not have childish mentality or behavior like we see all over this internet now from adults, like the Secret Service employees are very professional, and that's what I really enjoyed.
And kind of taking it back, do you think the Secret Service is going in the right way in terms of the unit? Is it, getting better since you've been in, or what are your thoughts on that?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think it's one of these things where, it's 24/7, 365. There's no days off. Especially when you're talking about the leader of the free world and the number two guy who's a heartbeat away. You know, I think we are constantly trying to learn from our mistake. Like, if you make a mistake and you don't learn from it, well, that's just a mistake. So I think learning from your mistakes is key. And I think they do a pretty good job of that. I know the training is there, the technology's gotten better, the equipment's gotten better. Just like when I was there, we were probably further along than the guys who had come, a decade before me. So I think it's constantly getting better. My only thing that I worry about sometimes is, like, hiring the right people. Like, I don't care if you're a woman. I don't care if you're gay. I don't care what your skin color is. Can you do the job? And we talk about on my podcast all the time. The standard is the standard. And if you can meet said standard, you're on the team. And if you can't, then you can't. If you can't do a pull up, well, how are you going to pick up a president and drag him off the stage. If you can't shoot, how can you shoot at a bad guy in a crowd of people? I mean, these things matter. Thankfully, they don't happen very often, but when it does happen, you have to be able to do your job. And so it's like, to me, the standard is the standard. If you can meet it, you're on the team. If you can't, you're out, and that's okay. I mean, that doesn't mean certain people are better than other people. They just have a different skill set. That's all.
Would you say the standard is getting lower, or
Uh, I well, I'm not there anymore, so I don't know. I think if you were to go back, and I hate doing this. I take no pleasure in doing this, but if you go back and look at the footage from July 13th, I mean, there were people that were springing into action, doing their thing. And by the way, one was a female, so let's don't get it twisted. And then there were a couple other people who are having a hard time, uh, getting a gun in a holster or knowing exactly what to do. And then whether it's fair or not, I don't know. But physical appearance matters. And if you're overweight or look like you're out of shape, I mean, think about this. I know I have a different viewpoint on it because I've been a cop on the streets. But when you walk up to a car or when you walk into a house, if you can give off a physical presence, this aura, like, hey, this guy means business. But don't think for one second that bad guys aren't sizing you up. And it'd have to be a really, really bad person to want to fight a cop.
yeah,
But if people are worried about having their freedom taken, sometimes they'll do anything to not have that happen. And I think that they do size people up. And it's not just women, it's men too. You have to be in shape. So that's a part of it. It's not just about sex and gender and all that crap. I don't want to, I'm not trying to go there. I'm just talking about physical ability. I see a lady on TV all the time right now. I'm not going to say her name because I haven't talked to her and don't have her permission. But she's the detail leader for Vice President JD Vance. I see her on TV all the time. She's awesome. She's fit. She can shoot. I've worked with her. I know what she's capable of. So it's got nothing to do with your gender. And I want to be very clear about that.
yeah, 100%. It's kind of like if you see a bouncer at a club and they're not big, it's a little less intimidating. I definitely get that point. Um, as someone who's actually been in the Secret Service, I obviously we see in media, movies. What is something people get kind of completely wrong about Secret Service agents? Obviously, we kind of just talked about the standard, but what is something else that you know mainstream public get wrong about the Secret Service agents?
I'm not sure what they get wrong. I think they might not understand what the functions are. So the Secret Service was founded in 1865. It was one of the last things that Abraham Lincoln signed uh, before he was assassinated because two-thirds of the money in circulation was counterfeit. And so the Secret Service basically started off as an investigative unit to combat counterfeit currency. Of course, it's gone into a cyber direction now. So known for the protection, known for the sexy stuff, right? The Air Force One and the Marine One and the motorcades and the suits and the sunglasses and all that stuff. But there's a whole section of people out in the field offices who are doing really good criminal work, and
Yeah,
that's where the whole thing started. And now this is one thing I'm pretty sure people don't know: the Secret Service has a fantastic group of people that work cyber crimes that. Help missing and exploited children. It's called ICAC, International Crimes Against but Internet Crimes Against Children, and they have some phenomenal forensics abilities. And it's so funny to think about Secret Service agents protecting the president and then going over here and doing uh, basically human trafficking stuff. It's very interesting dynamic, and I don't think people know about it, and because it's kind of odd, but that's what makes the Secret Service really unique. Is you've got these guys that can go out and do these physical things, but then they can also use their brains. It's pretty interesting.
yeah. I didn't know about that. So that is something new. The Secret Service is truly a group of heroes, and again, I want to thank you for your service, Scott. Do you think America is safer than it was 20 years ago, or do you think we're heading in the wrong direction? I've seen some, of your videos. I just want to hear your take on that.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think we're headed in the wrong direction as a society in general. Um, And I have some pretty strong views on that. As I get older, I care less and less about what people think.
Yeah.
I have of the adage that I'm going to ask for forgiveness instead of permission on some things nowadays. But having said that, you do have to know what the law is in your state,
Yeah.
okay, for like uh, like self-defense and things like that. You can't just go around willy-nilly doing things. I'm not suggesting that you should break the law in
Yeah.
any way or shape or form. But I think, in my humble opinion, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a theologian, I'm just a guy. But I'm strong in my faith.
Yep.
Okay. I'm a Christian and I am flawed and I am a sinner of epic proportion. But I believe in the Bible and I believe that America has taken, we took God out of the schools a long time ago, which I believe was a part of a master plan, just like LBJ taking fathers out of the minority homes back in the 60s to make people dependent upon welfare in the state. These people want us dependent upon them. And it's both parties. It's a uniparty. I don't even consider myself a Republican anymore. I'm just a conservative Christian. Um, I think Donald Trump's an outlier, and there's a handful of Republicans in DC, I think I might trust, but it's kind of a uniparty. And the whole thing is, in my opinion, it's gotten very twisted because we've taken God out of schools, we've taken him out of society, we've broken up the nuclear family, and we want to be dependent on the elites want us to dependent upon them. And that's what I think it is. I think it's spiritual warfare. And I know some people watching this right now are like, amen, brother. And then some people are like, this dude needs to be put in a straitjacket. But I just did a whole bunch of videos this morning before I came on your podcast that I'm going to drop on Instagram later today, because I totally believe like this school shooter stuff and this mental health crisis that we're in. I think it's demonic. And I'm not making fun of people. I feel sorry for these people that are transgender or they're confused or what. I think that's real. And I'm not making fun of them at all. I feel sorry for them. But you know who else I feel sorry for? I feel sorry for those families that had to put two little kids in the ground. And I think it's pure evil. And I think it's manifested itself in humanity. And that's what I think. And I'm not going to waver from that.
How do you think America can improve? Then obviously, you talked about, in your opinion, adding kind of faith back to schools and stuff. How do you think America can get back to where it should be then, Scott? In
I
your
think you
opinion?
got Yeah, I think, listen, not everybody's going to think the same. There are Christians, there's Jewish people, there's Muslims, there's agnostics, I get it. Do your thing, but like like the First Amendment should apply to everybody. And I think we're starting to see censorship. I've done some videos that have been taken off of YouTube and TikTok. It's like you can look up child porn on the internet, but I can't get on here and say something about if I use the word school shooter, they take it down. No, it was a school shooter. That's what it was. Why can't I say what it was? It's almost like words are worse than actions. Things are just backwards. If you haven't ever read the book, not you, but your audience, if you've never read the book 1984, go read that bad boy. I mean, we're kind of living it out right now. Things are just backwards. And I think it gets back to putting God in the center. Now, if for me, my God is Jesus Christ, and he's the only true God, in my opinion. But if you're not a believer, I'm not sure what's your moral compass. What keeps you from raping someone or stealing? Like, I don't know what it works for different people, but we've got to get back to some civility. I don't know how we do it other than God.
Definitely, I definitely see where you're coming from on that. I think, obviously, we're in a time where I think the country is pretty torn, pretty divided. We have a lot of stuff going on, and it's almost like I wish we could all just unite and be one country again and just be, proud to be Americans. I think there's so much just going on with, on both sides. Both sides are there's stuff going on. So
Yeah.
I definitely agree on that. Now, would you recommend someone to go into the Secret Service? And obviously, you talk about the camaraderie. But would you recommend someone to go into it if they're looking to get into the Secret Service?
Yeah, I think I would. I mean, at least I hope I would. I mean, after 25 years, I lay in bed at night and I look at the ceiling. I'm like, man, did I waste 25 years of my adult life? I hope not. But No, I mean, it's a good organization, just like anywhere else. It's going to have its flaws. I mean, the problem is their standards are so high. Like you cannot get it wrong. You can like if you screw a case up, fine, you screw a case up, but you can't screw up a protection assignment because that's someone's life, right? But so it's a very serious job for serious people. But yeah, I think I would. I have a couple of young men that I'm sort of mentoring that are trying to get there that are in the process, and
Yeah,
so yeah, I would overall I would say yes.
yeah. That's you're protecting the president of the United States. You can't be more patriotic than that. If you could change one thing about security and how leadership are handled at the highest level, what would that be?
Can you give me an example?
Yeah, trying to think of a good, I guess. Well, trying to think of an example.
How it would be at how it might be different at a higher level?
Yeah, if you could change one thing, how security and I guess security is handled at the highest level. That could be the Secret Service, the FBI, if there is one thing at all.
Yeah.
That question makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know if this is exactly the answer to your question or not, but I can only speak to my past experiences, right? First of all, let me just say that the FBI or the IRS or whoever should not be demonized to or weaponized to target your opponents like it has been in the past. I think we're getting back to like just do your job. Like when I watch the news, I just want the facts. I will decide if I believe it or not or whatever. Like Fox News is conservative, CNN's liberal. Just tell me the facts, right? And so I get my news from different sources now, and let me make up my own decision. Don't give me a bunch of propaganda. So the same thing with these agencies. Just do your job. Don't be a political apparatchik. But for the Secret Service, what I would say is for upper management, they put a lot of responsibility on the journeyman, the GS-13
Mhm.
senior agent, and then the GS-14, which is where I retired from, basically has a ton of responsibility as well. If you're going to put these people in these positions to make decisions, because somebody's got to do it, when they make a decision, trust them. Don't
Yeah.
armchair quarterback, which is never gonna. That's never going away. It's human nature. Well, why did you do this and why didn't you do it? I don't know. I was in the moment. I was trying to figure it out. If you don't like the decisions that I made, then you can come in here and do it because it's not fun.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I see what you're saying on that. You
And
know,
what I think what comes to mind for me was I ran the Joint Operations Center, the JOC, which controls the White House and the whole complex for almost a year, and things have just gotten so much harder to deal with them because of drones and technology. And there's just so many different things that my predecessors 5, 10, 20 years ago didn't have to think about. Then what's a drone? Like
hmm,
1999, there was no drones. What are you talking about? So it's like technology keeps advancing. The bad guys keep advancing. So we have to. And so I can remember being on the hot seat multiple times and I'm trying to work the problem and the phone's ringing. I'm like, I can't talk to you right now, which is hard to say to your
yeah,
superior, especially if he's a pay grade or two ahead of you
yeah,
and he's wanting to know things. I'm like, I'm working the problem. Let me work the problem and then
yeah,
I'll brief you. You can't do both at the same time.
yeah. That I
If
see
that
where you're
makes, I don't know if that's a good
no,
answer.
that makes I think that was I think that made perfect sense. And you know, before we go, Scott, I want to look at your podcast. Obviously, is it on all platforms?
Yeah, right now we're mainly on YouTube.
Okay.
I think I've been fussing at my. I've got a small team of guys, and I'm like, guys, we got to start pushing some stuff out on Rumble and some different
Yeah.
places. But yeah, we're the podcast drops on
Okay.
Tuesdays and Fridays at 6 o'clock Eastern. It's called Scott Bryson Beyond the Service. It's over on YouTube. We push it out on Rumble some now. I think we should be doing that all the time. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok. Those are where I do my shorts or whatever. But the full blown podcasts are usually found over on YouTube.
Yeah, and we'll definitely put that in, guys. Don't forget to check that out. Subscribe to Scott on the YouTube as well. Um, I personally will be starting to listen to a lot of those now. I'll be tuning in, and I can't wait to hear what your takes are. As they're I love your takes, and I think they're very unique. And um, are you doing anything else outside of obviously what your current job is now? Anything else you want to promote, Scott?
Well, I do have something in the works, but I'm not able to talk about it just yet because I need to let the people that I'm getting ready to collaborate with do that.
Yeah.
But we've only been doing this for a year, just over a year, and we've grown our Instagram account's crazy,
Yeah.
and it's growing so fast. Um, YouTube's been a little slow, but we've
Mhm.
we've done enough to catch the eye of some people. So we're super thankful for that. We're flattered. Just people like you who always say nice things to me. There are of course people who say ugly things as well. But I've got thick skin. I can take it. But yeah, I mean, I don't know where this is headed or why it's headed, where it's going. But I think this is the next chapter of my life. Uh, so we're just running with it. We're kind of like the blind leading the blind, but we're just doing it, man.
Hey, and that's sometimes how it be. I mean, oh, so many years ago when you stumbled across that Secret Service agent, to now everything happens for a reason, Scott. And it's been an honor and privilege to talk to you guys. Please don't forget to check out Scott's Instagram, Scott's YouTube. Check out all that. Listen to it. Truly, truly an American hero. Scott, again, I appreciate your time. It's been an honor and privilege. Again, guys, don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe on this video. Until next time, Underdog